Are you satiated by the fact that the Port Harcourt Refinery is, according to the government, commencing operations immediately after Christmas? Well, let's have conversations around that with Dr. John Erine, who is an energy consultant and past president of the Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, our correspondent went to Port Harcourt and took some reports, brought some reports back to us. But maybe you just want to give us an understanding. When we hear that there is the stage we're at now in the Port Harcourt Refinery is what they call the EPCIC stage of completion. And we also hear the minister talk about the mechanical completion. And that after Christmas, the whole refinery will begin to receive products. Can you take us through that process?
Okay. Thank you very much, Ayo. And thank you very much for having me. A slight correction first. EPCIC speaks to the framework that for the entire gamut of work that is required to take the refinery from the comatose state in which it was to an operational stage. That means engineering, procurement, construction, installation, and commissioning. So a contractor was engaged to undertake all these activities. From the announcement that came through the government's sources, mechanical completion has been achieved. That means that engineering, procurement, construction, and installation phases have been completed. That's the implication. And that also means that what is left, the only process outstanding is the commissioning, and after that, the facility or the refinery should be able to operate on a regular basis.
Just to be clear, because when Nigerians, the layman hears commissioning, it sounds like tape cutting process. Okay, we want to commission the road for use, we want to commission the hospital for use and all. And is it the same in engineering or in the case of a refinery?
Yeah, for us professionally, commissioning has a slightly different connotation, or significantly different connotation. Commissioning means that you have completed the facility. Now you want to take it through the process of being able to perform the task you have designed and constructed it for. So you have to go through a gradual process of testing, verifying, checking, ensuring that every piece of equipment, every item that is installed is doing what is expected to do. And that ultimately what you're going to get at the end of the process is what you expect it to be. But you have your specification of your feedstock or your raw material, or you have your specification of your finished product. Ultimately, your commissioning process will tell you whether you're able to convert your raw material, your feedstock, to the expected quality of finished product.
So when the minister says the mechanical completion has been achieved and you are validating that now, and this commissioning that you just talked about now, he also said that the refinery will start receiving products sometime after Christmas. Can you give us an idea of how long that is?
Sorry, about how long that is?
Yes.
Well, I'm not in a position to say how long that is. Okay. But going by the announcement by the minister and the NNPCL sources, we're told that mechanical completion has been achieved.
No, the question I'm asking is, how long does the commissioning take?
Commissioning Commissioning, again, broadly can be in two phases. You have the pre-commissioning checks and then the final commissioning. And for a big process plant like that, it could take a couple of months. It's not likely to take days. It could take a month, it could take 2 months, it could take maybe perhaps up to 3 months.
Just to be
because
clear.
It's a painstaking exercise.
Just to be clear.
And and also it's important to stress that we're dealing with a facility that is intended to process hydrocarbons, which are very flammable. And that means that it's a high risk operation. So that means that there must be very painstaking effort to ensure that that facility is built or it's rehabilitated to the expected standard.
Is the Port Harcourt refinery ready to receive petroleum products or produce or refine petroleum products from after Christmas?
I am honestly not in a position to validate that.
But from professionally, do you think it is?
From the government announcement, I can surmise that the refinery is ready for commissioning.
Okay, and you say?
Not necessarily ready to start regular operations. That is the way I will process the information that has come to us.
Okay.
So realistically, commissioning, from what you're saying, may take 3 months.
It could take up to 3 months.
So Port Harcourt Refinery will not necessarily begin cracking, using the words of professionals now, crude products for commercial sale until maybe first quarter of next year. Is that when we should be preparing for?
I can say for certain that we cannot expect to see regular products from Port Harcourt Refinery until sometime in the first quarter of next year. That would be correct.
But is that also to say that because one of the questions a number of people have asked is, why deal with a 60, the smaller capacity refinery as opposed to the bigger one? Is that something that bothers your association as well, your society?
Yes, for us, Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers, and we actually wondered why that decision was made. Well, we don't have all the information at our disposal, but from our knowledge, professional knowledge as chemical engineers, we felt that a better decision would have been to, first of all, address the big and the more modern, more recent refinery train, which is the 150,000 refinery that was commissioned in 1989-90. That's more modern, more efficient, and that would have given us greater milestone. The old refinery, the 1965 refinery, is a smaller one, 60,000 barrels, and it had actually been down. It hadn't operated for perhaps maybe 20 years or thereabout. So that was going to be a little more difficult, but we couldn't. We were not privy to the facts, and
Do you key into the idea that it was probably a political decision by the administration because Dangote Refinery was going to come on stream, and the government was relying on that, to take pressure off of it, to fix the Port Harcourt Refinery 2 that has 4 conversion units rather than this one that has been repaired?
It's difficult to say. I don't think I'll key into that conclusion, because professionally, it would have made a lot more sense to address the issues of the 150,000 barrel refinery first. But only those who made this decision can actually tell us and justify why they decided to, first of all, address the 60,000 barrel refinery.
Yeah. I was trying to, take in the implication of your explanation of what commissioning is. If that's what commissioning is, and really we shouldn't expect refined products to come from the repaired Port Harcourt refineries until about the first quarter of 2024, and the federal government knows that Nigerians have been waiting and seeking some relief from petroleum products importation, why run ahead of time to make this announcement? Why not wait until the refinery can actually produce before this announcement is made?
And perhaps as surprised as you are, and maybe as concerned as you are, yes, the more important thing is to make sure we take time to do things properly. Nigerians have waited for many years, if not decades. So it doesn't really make a difference whether it's today or tomorrow. Okay. For as long as we are making progress all the time. So to me, the important thing is safety. professionally as chemical engineers, we're trained to design and operate in a safe manner. Process safety is of paramount importance. So we're very concerned that it is done properly, it's done safely, so that when we start operating, there are not going to be any safety incidents or stories.
Now, when the minister was talking, was also speaking about something that, Nigerians saw on the social media platforms. He talked about the commencement, he talked about mechanical completion and flare startup. That is the flare startup that people saw on social media and thought that was a thing. Can you please explain that to us? Because that's one of the bases upon which people are saying the Port Harcourt Refinery has started working.
Okay, thank you. There are perhaps two ways you could have flare startup, or you can have flare in a refinery like that. The first one, which is the more regular route, is when you introduce hydrocarbons into your process, into your facility, and you begin to process, then you have hydrocarbon gases that are generated, and you flare them off. That means that operation has actually started. But also, you can bring in gas, especially LPG, and inject it into the system in order to test your flare facilities. That is actually part of commissioning. To test your flare facilities, to make sure that they are working as designed, as well as some of your emergency relief facilities. Because those emergency relief facilities are tied to the safety of the process. So this is all part of the testing that has to go on before you can say that the refinery or the facility is certified for regular operation. So it needs to be ascertained whether hydrocarbon has been introduced into the refinery. There's no evidence, there's no record so far to show that hydrocarbon has been introduced. So it appears, but I stand to be corrected, it needs to be verified. It appears that what has happened in Port Harcourt is that LPG has been introduced in order to test the flare facilities.
So we can surmise then that the commissioning may have started from that as well.
That is one small aspect of commissioning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all of the possibilities give us hope, don't they?
Exactly.
Indeed. Our correspondent, leads us to believe that the Port Harcourt Refinery 2 is also under repair and will be delivered soon. Speaking of which, the $1.5 billion contract given to the Italian company for this repair work since 2021, from your own perspective, as a professional, does it justify, what we've seen so far? Has that money been justified, or do we wait until the delivery of petroleum products from these refineries before we can say that that amount has been well spent?
Thank you. For us as professionals, we would have perhaps addressed that problem in a slightly different way. And it still leaves room for concern. We believe that at the time that decision was made, it was better that the government, up till now, it is not very clear. There's no clarity from government on what is going to be the fate of the refinery going forward. In other words, certain factors led to the crumbling and the demise of the NNPC refineries. All the three of them failed. And clearly, there was a big issue with the business model and government ownership and operatorship of those refineries. It is not clear whether that issue has been properly addressed. There's no clarity from government on what is going to happen subsequently.
Under the Petroleum Industry Act, do the assets now belong to the NNPCL for management? Yeah,
they belong to NNPCL for management. And till today, NNPCL is a government-owned institution or company. But having said that, the important thing is that at the time that decision was made, we felt that the better option was to go ahead and privatize the refineries and bring in competent private sector operators who have the technical, operational, and financial capability to run the refineries. we advocated a model that was similar to the NLNG model, and so that they could take over, come in, bring in their resources in other, and they would manage the revamping or rehabilitation of the refineries in their own vision. One of the lingering problems that hasn't been addressed is that these refineries are being rehabilitated in accordance with the product specifications of 20, 30 years ago. Product specifications have moved on, have become tighter over the years, even in line with the specifications of the Standard Organization of Nigeria. Those refineries were not designed to meet those specifications. So apart from rehabilitation, there was need for upgrade of the refineries. That is not going on right now. So that is a little cause for concern. So we had preferred an option where private sector operators were to bring in their resources, do the rehabilitation, do the upgrade, and situate the refineries properly to meet product requirements of today, not product requirements of yesterday.
Consequently, if you didn't expect that the federal government would be the one pumping money into it. It should be a private sector initiative.
Absolutely. We didn't think public money should be going into it. We felt that it should be, even if public money was going to be involved, that should be in a subsidiary sense, not in a primary sense.
Sorry, did you just suggest that even under this contract awarded to the Italian firm, upgrade is not going on?
To the best of our understanding, there's no upgrade.
So what's going on right now?
Rehabilitation, as restoring the refinery to the state it was.
But what we need is upgrade in line with new technology.
We need rehabilitation. We also need upgrade.
But you said that the other part of the PH refinery is an upgrade already.
It is more modern.
Okay.
It is more modern. But the product specification, the specification of the products that come out from that refinery still do not meet today's standards.
Okay. Well, my colleagues in Abuja have questions for you, but just before we throw to them, just one question. What products and in what quantity should Nigerians expect from the PH refinery when it comes on stream?
Well, Port Harcourt refinery is designed to process the two streams process 210,000 barrels of crude oil. But the whole refinery is for 60,000 barrels. So if it operates near 100% capacity, we should see it processing close to 60,000 barrels. By its design, I don't expect that it can do more than about 2 million liters per day. About that, yes.
PMS.
Of PMS, yes.
And other products?
Yes, it's designed to make other products.
Okay.
PMS, AGO, household kerosene are all designed to come from that refinery, as well as LPG and fuel oil.
All right.
Yeah.
Chamberlain.
Dr. Reina, good morning. I'm just wondering, when you say that it's an option for LPG to be imported and try to test the system, which is, if I did hear some engineers say that what they actually did was that they imported LPG, connected it to the flare, which is what people saw. And then they actually thought that if they were to do it the right way, the flare will come from gas coming from the refinery, waste gas coming from the refinery, which is actually meant to show that the refinery, at least its capacity is there for it to refine properly. What's your impression about that opinion?
Well, like I said earlier, it's either that we have introduced hydrocarbon into the refinery and we're generating waste hydrocarbon gases which need to be flared off, or that we brought in gas into the system in order to test the flare facilities. in the absence of any confirmation that hydrocarbon has been introduced into the old Port Harcourt refinery on mechanical completion, then we can only conclude that LPG was introduced into the system just to test the flare facilities. Some people may have then been carried away to believe, that the refinery has started operation. But I don't have any reason to believe that refinery is already in an operational mode.
Okay, now that is a little worrisome. I think that, we'll be waiting on the authorities to give further clarification. I think my colleague already asked you, how much you also think that this can produce, and you said 2 million liters of PMS. Now, from what you know, can we really, how much of our daily need, because at the end of the day, all of this excitement is about being able to produce locally, which should have an effect on the price of PMS locally. And I think that's basically what Nigerians are looking forward to, a reduction in the price. From now that the federal government has said, look, the refinery is back on stream, even though there's still questions about whether it is LPG that has been introduced or whether, real hydrocarbons are being cracked in that refinery. From now, when this announcement has been made till when the products eventually hit the market, how soon, I don't know if this is under your purview because you're a chemical engineer, but how soon do you think Nigerians can begin to expect to feel an impact in the market of the effect of the start of the Port Harcourt refinery?
Thank you. Well, that's going to be very difficult for me to say with any precision because, one, I haven't visited Port Harcourt refinery to have a personal assessment, and so I cannot say with certainty when I think the refinery can begin to make the desired impact. But on a general basis, we can surmise that the refinery, that if mechanical completion has been achieved now, then the next phase will be to do the pre-commissioning and then the final commissioning. And these take a little while, and it perhaps will take another couple of months to be concluded, and then we can begin to see products coming out from that refinery. But we'll also note that it's not necessarily eureka, in the sense that we're talking about a small Port Harcourt refinery, perhaps making 2.5 million liters of petrol per day, and which is the most sensitive product in the market. Consumption numbers are not very certain, but we can guess that our consumption is over 30 million liters per day nationwide. So that means that what is coming from this old Port Harcourt refinery is just going to be a small fraction of the requirement of the market. So that's not going to make a big dent in the market, but it's going to be one important step forward. I think it's important we also have a clear perspective on that.
This is not exactly related to Port Harcourt refinery, but is related to local production, and it's one of the things that a number of Nigerians had also looked forward to, which is the Dangote refinery, which we also understood took possession of another 1 million liters of crude, 1 million barrels of crude yesterday. I think journalists were led on that excursion to see how the ship was being offloaded at the SBM. For you, I mean, looking at a combination of these factors, I do not know, we're not very certain whether, primarily the products from the Dangote refinery will be, for the Nigerian market. That is the hope of many Nigerians. But people have also mentioned the fact that it is situated within an export processing zone. So Nigeria can also, the refinery can also export to neighboring countries that might need it. But if all of the products, assuming majority of the products were meant for the Nigerian market, and we've already seen the delivery of crude to that refinery, and we've heard that the Port Harcourt refinery has also started working. How soon, I mean, given the and I know you're not privy to any of these refineries, but from the knowledge of a chemical engineer and one who knows how quickly products can be refined in this sort of refineries, how soon do you think Nigerians can expect, professionally speaking, to begin to see this product in the market?
Well, Dangote Refinery has already started taking hydrocarbon into its facility, so it's a couple of steps ahead. So we can expect that, all going well, if they have all the crude oil supplies they require, and there are no surprises, Dangote Refinery should be able to start injecting products into the market in the next month or two. In fact, even less than that, perhaps in another month, we could begin to lift products from the Dangote Refinery, like all being equal. So the Dangote Refinery is a couple of steps ahead. It's virtually ready to start cranking and to start injecting, delivering products to the market. Yeah, the Port Harcourt Refinery is following in its footsteps, and we expect that once the commissioning process begins and hydrocarbon is injected into the system and all the checks have been done, we can also begin to see the products in the market. So it takes a little while, but I believe that in the next 1, 2 to 3 months, we should begin to have products from these two directions into the market.
I mean, I know that also during the budget defense, you know, because as I did say, for a number of Nigerians, it's not just about local production capacity, which we're looking forward to because, of course, of the numerous effects it would also have the value chain and being able to benefit from our crude, which is mined locally here. I'm also wondering whether you think that there will be any effect on the price, because I think at the budget defense, we did hear from one of the authorities in the industry that it might not exactly have an effect on the price. As I said, I recognize the fact that you're a chemical engineer, but how is price determined? And, you know, at the end of the day, do you think the Nigerians can actually expect to see lower prices of petroleum products as a result of products now being refined locally?
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting question that has been in the lips of very many. Basically, local refining should provide some advantage, even in terms of price. But that advantage is not likely to be enormous. It's likely to be just marginal, in the sense that the major driver, the most important cost component is the cost of the crude oil inputs into the refinery process. For as long as the crude oil is priced competitively in line with the world markets, then you're not going to see a drastic change or improvement or reduction in the price of the products that will come out of the refinery. But that being said, there are some other marginal cost elements on which there can be savings. Things like haulage, transportation, demurrage, port handling, and things like that. So when you're able to save on those, then you're able to make some marginal improvement in your cost, and that should also translate to marginal price reduction in the marketplace.
And I think if we send this back to Lagos now.
Well, thank you, Malcolm. So one of the other questions that one would want to ask you, Dr. Kinney, is from what you know and available data, what fraction of national supply and demand will be taken care of within the first 6 months of next year from the Port Harcourt refineries, from Dangote refineries and all of that? Because you may be aware, of course, that there are queues in fuel stations, even in Lagos. My colleagues in Abuja will say from time to time that there are huge queues all over the place, including at NNPC fuel stations. So how soon do you see all of these facilities that we have on our hands taking care of our supplies in such a way that people don't have to panic or queue for long hours at the fuel stations?
Yeah, that's a bit of a tricky question, in the sense that, and very embarrassingly, that we don't actually have a clear indication of what the local demand for petroleum products is, especially in terms of PMS, petrol. It is embarrassing. It's not very complimentary, but that's the reality. Having said that, on a very broad basis, in a very general basis, it's believed that if Dangote Refinery is operating at design capacity, has all the crude oil supplies it requires, and then if we have Port Harcourt Refinery also operating, then we should be able to be, we should be self-sufficient in petroleum products, especially PMS.
And is there a potential for exportation somewhere along the line in the future?
Oh, to start with, Dangote Refinery is designed in such a way that it has a lot of flexibility to deliver to the domestic market and also to export. Even the Port Harcourt Refinery also has that flexibility in its design. It's on record that soon after it was commissioned in the early 90s, it was actually exporting petroleum products to the international market.
I'm concerned about price as well, and I'd just like to follow up on Malquest's question. When haulage costs, transportation costs, importation costs from the sea has been taking off, that pressure has been taking off the nation, what measure, what percentage of reduction do you think is possible at all if we can hope for a price reduction?
It's difficult to give you a number of the curve right now, but that's why I indicated that it's going to be marginal, it's not going to be major, it's not going to be profound in terms of its impact. So, but I can't put my fingers on numbers right now on that, because it requires a lot more calculation.
One more thing from me, I'd just like to follow up. Earlier on, you said that, because of the nature of rehabilitation work that is ongoing, that the quality of products that we're expecting from the refinery may not necessarily be in line with international standard, if I got you correctly. What's the implication of that for the products that will be introduced into the market?
Yeah, the implication is that we're going to continue to struggle, that we're going to have a dilemma in our hands where the refinery is making product that doesn't quite meet the specifications that are even approved by our own standard organization of Nigeria, and yet to have those products going into the market. So that's going to be a dilemma.
Should we be concerned for our vehicles?
We should be concerned for not just the vehicles, for the environment, for our people, because these vehicles burn these fuels and eject and release spent gases into the atmosphere, and people breathe this. That's the whole purpose of tightening the standards in order to improve on to reduce pollution of the environment.
Well, we've come to the end of this session, but just to very quickly, you talked about the embarrassment of not knowing the number of liters of petrol, in particular, that we consume on a daily basis. What are we missing that's making that impossible for us to track?
Well, what we're missing is that we don't have reliable numbers. The different agencies, different bodies give us different numbers.
The challenge
and
here
at different
for me,
times.
Just a quick one. The challenge here for me is we know the number of tanks and the number of liters that leave the tank farms. We know also, or at least we should know, the number of liters of petrol that go to the fuel stations all over the nation. Why the disparity? Why is it difficult to track?
Yeah, that's in a simplistic sense, that's correct. But in reality, it's a lot more complicated than that, I can tell you for sure. And that's why there are different notes coming from different angles.
What makes it complex?
Part of it is that there are different interests at play. And so the numbers you're seeing are also tainted by interests.
Well, we have to thank you very much for this morning, and just hope that, as we always say, that the government, they have their jobs cut out for them. Dr. John Erine, energy consultant and past president, Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much, Ayo.